We've talked once or twice about 50 Shades.
Yeah.
Do the films, do they bleed into one for you now? Like, can you differentiate one from the other?
They sort of do. I think I watched them all like by myself in a theater with like a security guard, which is a really incredibly awkward scenario to find yourself in
Yeah,
when
to
you're
watch yourself having
simulating
sex.
so much sex.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Just turn to him and be like, what do you think? How am I doing?
Believable? Passable? What do you think? Good technique?
Prepare your ears, humans. Happy, Sad, Confused begins now.
I'm Josh Horowitz, and today on Happy, Sad, Confused, we have a returning champion. He sings, he dances, he views shirts as clothing optional. He's the star of The Tourist, my genetic twin, Jamie Dornan.
That's very well said and mostly true.
Mostly about 40% true.
Yeah.
It's good to see you, buddy. You know, it's been years and years since we've actually been sharing space, physical space.
Yeah, I
with each
agree.
other.
It feels like I've seen you on my like screen a lot.
Same.
And it now feels good to be this
See that I
physically
have
close
feet?
to you.
I have legs.
You do have feet. You've still got your feet.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
good.
the diabetes hasn't taken it. They
That's
haven't removed
good.
them yet.
The gout or whatever would take them from you. I don't know.
We're just a bad run-in on the street.
Yeah, exactly. Just, yeah.
We're starting on a horrible note.
Yeah.
Congratulations on the new season of The Tourist. We're going to talk about that, a great many things. First, a belated thank you. You contributed a delicious potato recipe to our Happy, Sad, Confused holiday special.
I mean, did that even air? I mean, what?
Oh, it aired.
Oh, did it?
It aired. We ran it during our conversation with Claire Foy and Andrew Scott.
Yes.
And I remember we did it during a live event. Jamie contributed this about a 5-minute recipe.
It was too long. It was about 4 minutes too long, I'd say.
I do. No, it was great. I loved it because we ran it during this live event, and frankly, we needed a breather. And afterwards, like Claire was like, "That was really thorough."
Translated as, he needs help.
No,
Shut him up.
You had the hat. It was great.
Yeah,
It was
okay,
all
good.
in.
Yeah, I feel like Andrew Scott has probably been a beneficiary of my roast potatoes at some point over the years.
Really?
Yeah, I'd say he would have sampled one.
Wow.
Just one.
You get
Right,
one.
Andrew, you've had your share. Now pass the bowl along the table.
So we were chatting in my home state, New York. We were just talking about, you've had a minute to kind of like actually enjoy the surroundings. What is your New York history? Did you ever spend much time here, like in the lean years?
Yeah,
or?
I did in the lean years. Yeah, because when I was modeling, I was here a lot. So in my 20s, I was here a lot. I loved it. I still sort of see New York as this kind of place of sort of misbehavior in a way, because like in my 20s, I just sort of like, you know, mucked around and came in and out of bars and, you know, had fun. And I was never that busy here in a way. Like I would hear a lot, but you know, I'd do a shoot for like a day or two, and then just I'd always make a trip out of it. I'd stay in New York longer just to like see friends and have a good time. So I still feel a little bit like that, but this time my wife was with me, and we were probably more growing up and better behaved than my previous history in New York.
Yeah.
But it was really fun. I love it here. I love the food here.
The best.
Well, I'm such a tourist. Like we literally went to like Katz's Deli the other day.
Did you
like,
really?
Took ages to like, you know, queued up and got.
You didn't say, I'm Jamie Dam Dornan?
I didn't know. Have
you ever done that? Have you ever pulled the Jamie Dornan card to get into a restaurant?
Dude, I'm Irish. We can't
You
show
can't do it.
that much confidence. That's totally against us.
For
as
like
a
the
people.
4% chance that they're like, yeah, cool.
Yeah,
Then it's not worth
no,
it.
we clocked you. We know who you are.
We know
have
exactly.
no interest. Join the back of the line. Yeah, I like, you know, something like that. I actually think that's kind of all part of the experience of somewhere like Cats, to go and do that and like be in line, and it's all sort of really chaotic and a bit scary, and you feel like you're in the wrong line, you're holding the wrong thing, you sort of have a panic attack when you get up there about saying the wrong thing.
Like the ticket, the whole
thing.
it's stressful.
It's a bit of a schlep, but actually like well worth it. The food's amazing.
Amazing.
Had a big messy pastrami Reuben on rye, and like, yeah, it's a good time in there. I like it. Cream soda, like just all the bad stuff. Yeah, it was good.
So back in the modeling days, and I would imagine also auditioning here in New York for trying to get the acting career going. Now, were you going up for TV? Like, were you Law and Ordering? Were you trying to like get into plays or musicals? What was happening?
I actually never in my life auditioned for like one of those procedural things. My New York experience of auditioning would have been exclusively musical, I think, probably. I don't know. I actually succeeded in getting a job here once, and then they couldn't organize my green card in time, and I needed a green card. It was to do a workshop for a Broadway musical. And
it was Hamilton. You can say what it was now.
It was. I mean, literally nearly 20 years ago, and I'm like, ooh, can I say it?
But did it succeed? Was this something that ended up succeeding?
I think it closed after like 2 weeks or something.
Oh, wow.
Or maybe didn't even make it to Broadway. It was Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, that Pedro Almodovar film. It was a musical.
There was a major
version of
actress in that too. I feel like that was going to start.
Who ended up in it? It's a guy, Bart. Sure, that director.
We'll add that in ADR
anyway, yeah,
afterwards.
exactly. Burt. Oh, Lancaster.
But that must have been a big moment to get it, and then crushing to be like, wait, they can't figure this out.
Yeah, I remember really clearly. I was over. I just got a new manager at the time, and he thought I could sing better than I can sing, and was like, "Oh, let's put you up for some like musical theatre stuff." And it was my first ever musical theatre audition, and I did not know that was a different process to any other thing. So I remember waiting in the room up at like the Lincoln Center with like proper musical theatre actors, you know, and they're on the they're doing these warm-ups, and I was sort of waiting outside the room, and they said like, you're next on deck, can we have your sheet music? I was like, what?
Sorry.
They said your music that you're gonna, and I'd sort of been told to prepare a song, but not much more than that. But as it turned out, you're meant to have prepared a sort of slow tempo song and a fast tempo song. No, I didn't. I only had done a slow tempo song. I just done a song, and it happened to be slow tempo. But I didn't have the music for it, for the pianist or anything. So I said, oh God, I'm so sorry. This is my first ever musical audition, you can tell. And they said, well, what is the song? And it was Smile, you know, smile though your heart is breaking. That's the song I sang. Which Charlie Chaplin wrote, by the way, if anybody doesn't know that, which is a really interesting thing. He wrote the lyrics. Anyway, so I went in, and the pianist is obviously a very established pianist. I went in, there was honestly 16 people at like Last Supper-esque massive table. And
all judging you
it was
silently.
Awful. Yeah, and I stood by this pianist, and he played that, and I sang that. And then they said, and we've heard you don't have an up-tempo song. I said, no, I have no idea. Said, what could you do like on the spot? I was like, I think I suggested a Van Morrison song, which like nobody was doing, but it's the most like comically like Northern Irish thing in the world. And then the pianist was like, oh, I know, like Brown Eyed Girl. And I was like, I don't really want to say, okay. And then I sang Brown Eyed Girl. Anyway, then I had to do the acting part. And by this point, I'm quite relaxed because I'm like, it couldn't be going worse.
Sure.
Like
so
I've just totally, I mean, you know, I probably sang okay. And I did this, and I had to do a Spanish accent. And all I remember was I had a line where I was like, I had to say, I forgot the olives. And I remember going like, I forgot the olives. It was like terrible. Anyway, they then call me and say they want to see me again. I saw them again next day. And then they said, look, they really want you for this. And we're going to try to fast track your green card. It was really exciting and terrifying. And I remember I was in having a bath when they called, and then the first person I called was Eddie Redmayne, who was in New York at the time too, and I called him and said, you know, he was my only friend who had a bit of experience in that world by then, not musical theatre so much then, but like just my only friend who was doing plays at any kind of level at that point, I think. Anyway, they couldn't get the green card. And that's a really long way.
There's a lot to glean from that story. You thought it was a tragedy. You thought you fucked it up, and yet you got it. So there's like no rhyme or reason to anything.
Yeah, and it was and I've never had a sniff at a musical since. If you know what I mean, it was just a weird, capsulized moment in time of like, oh, I sort of got offered this.
And imagine that road
that on Broadway, and then never went near it again.
And if that had happened, imagine the different path.
I know, it could have been like Jonathan Groff.
Yes, exactly.
Like an older Irish version of Jonathan Groff.
I was going to say, because you know what a fan of Barb Star I am.
Yep.
So after Edgar's Prayer, that hasn't led to other musical offers?
Nope. What does that tell you? No, it hasn't. Look, I've sang in a few things. I sang in Belfast. I've sang here and there, but no comedy offers or musical offers. So I don't know what that says, but
that just says the movie was not seen by enough people, frankly.
Well, I agree with that. It kind of wasn't. That was a terrible, unfortunate COVID of it all. I think the release of that film, because you and many people love it.
It's amazing.
It does have a huge cult following. And I do think there's a genuine want for more of them. But, those things have to stack up in lots of different ways, and it needed to probably have made more money and all that sort of stuff and have a proper theatrical release, which we didn't get. And anyway.
Maybe that could come to the stage. Any sniffing around Broadway for a Barb Star musical?
That's a great idea, Joe. I mean, that's a great idea.
I think I'm talking to Kristen soon, so I'm going to put in a word.
My voice could take that song it's so hard to sing that song. It's way beyond my register, and I don't think I could do it night after night. Or maybe I wouldn't. Maybe I'd just produce it and make a load of money.
No, we want you on stage. Are you going to see? Have you seen your buddy? You already name checked Eddie. We get it. You're friends with Eddie Redmayne.
Just drop a load of names on the floor here, guys, and clean them up later.
He's coming back to Broadway for a cabaret.
He's here. He came like 4 days ago. I'm seeing him today. We're gonna go and have a cup of tea. He's very well behaved when he's doing rehearsals. He's he's here. I'll come back when that's on, hopefully, and see cabaret again.
So some of your friendships and relationships that we've talked about over the years. There is like the Eddie Redmaynes, the Andrew Garfields. I want to talk about Cillian too, because I've spent a lot of time with him recently.
Yes, poor guy. It's not going well for him.
No, I'm sure something will turn around for him.
Tough time.
So to connect it to the tourist, you're dying in a ditch.
Yeah.
Who do you text first from that group? Who's going to actually bail you out? Is it going to be Andrew Garfield? Is it going to be Eddie Redmayne? Is it going to be Cillian Murphy? Who has the chops? Who has the know-how?
It's not Garfield. I'll tell you why it's not Garfield. I reminded him of this last week. We had lunch, and I said, I'm actually getting like an MRI on my back next week, and it's just a fiddly little thing that's going on. And I feel like it's always been like that since I shattered my shoulder like 14 years ago next week, a week after I met my wife, skiing. And I was with Andrew when I was skiing. And I had a really, really terrible accident, and I got helicoptered off the side of a mountain. And Andrew filmed the whole thing. Remember Flip? Do you remember those Flip cameras? That was like the whole thing. We were all
he went
doing
right into action by saying, "Hold on."
Yeah, honestly, I'm like, I hit this other skier, came out of a ski, shoulder dislocated, my shoulder was literally sat there, my nose was all bloody, tumbled down the mountain. And I think, it's okay, Spider-Man's here, it's going to be okay. And then suddenly he's like up in my face, like TMZ with the
How do you feel?
I was like, what?
So cross him off the list.
He has some footage of me sort of getting put into a helicopter and getting flown off to a hospital in like Switzerland.
That's a rainy day. So no,
he's not getting a call. He's not getting a call.
No.
Eddie's pretty good.
Eddie seems like a responsible man.
Yeah. Eddie had a situation where someone had been scammed, and Eddie got scammed, and his email. We all got emails saying, "Look, guys, I'm up against it here. I need some cash."
No.
Yeah, and
did anybody respond? Did anybody?
Yeah, Warren Beatty was like, "What can I do?"
Stop it.
Yeah. I mean, Warren Beatty I think I'm okay to tell this.
So is this a group email?
Yeah, I sent to all of his contacts. I don't think we were all on there together.
I see.
I wasn't like, yeah, Warren, you go. You go first, I'll follow. No, but we all just got individual emails saying, guys, I need you to wire me some cash. And fair credit, Warren Beatty was like, whatever you need. In
a pinch, this is good to know.
I know, what a legend.
Amazing.
Anyway, just before he read out the wrong name at the Academy
It's all connected probably.
Yeah. It all sort of makes sense. But yeah, so maybe Eddie's very Cillian's not a great phone guy. He probably wouldn't answer my call.
So I do want to connect it because I saw you moderated an Oppenheimer Q&A.
Yes,
I watched it, and I saw you have a very unique relationship with Cillian, on this planet, I would say.
Yeah.
Because I get along very well with Cillian, and he's very sweet with me, but you get to him. There's something, you have this ability.
Yeah.
You worked with him on a film.
Yeah.
How quickly did you key into I've got his number? What do you have on Cillian Murphy that the rest of us don't?
We're from the same place. We're from different ends of a small island, but there is a connection there just from the basis of being from the island of Ireland, let's say. And I just, we are trade and stock is, or stock and trade, whatever way you say it. We say in Ireland, we say trade and stock, is like taking the mickey out of each other, that sort of thing. So with everyone from there. So yeah, I remember the first time I met him, we went and had pizza when I knew we were doing this Anthropoid together. And we just hit straight away. I was like, this guy's going to be a good friend for life. And I was a huge admirer of his work. And I just love him. I'm so glad that he's getting all this praise, and he's, no better man. He's been exceptional for a long time.
No, I do feel like when I did a Q&A with him the other night, something I said very similar to what you're saying is like, this has given us all the excuse. Those of us that have known and loved his work for the last 20 years, it's like we can all like openly say again, once and for all, this is one of the best in our generation.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
To see him acknowledged. And I know obviously you're friends with Emily as well.
Yeah.
To see that group.
That was a fun Q&A.
Yeah.
And I had never met Florence Pugh, so we'd had a little dinner before, and she's a good time. So it was just, it was fun up there.
Can you leave something for me? You do everything else. This is the one thing I do that you don't do.
I don't think I'll be asked back. I don't know. It was a bit chaotic that, everyone had one or two martinis, and it was a bit sloppy up there.
Who is okay? So Cillian has kind of like hitched his wagon to the best, Mr. Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
If you could do that with a filmmaker, is there like you could be the muse of any filmmaker and just ride out the next 10 years with them?
I mean, Nolan's a pretty good person to be aligned with, isn't he?
Ever met
Richard
him,
Linklater? That's a good. There's a lot of Paul Mescal's done that now, isn't he? He's
like the next.
He's in the next.
Like
whatever,
the next
Ethan Hawke.
Like, yeah, exactly.
yeah, whatever that is. So that's pretty cool. I mean, look, I did back-to-back Kenneth Branagh movies.
That's true. That's a pretty good company to be in.
Pretty happy to be aligned with him.
Yeah.
And I love him, and he hasn't directed another movie since because he's been doing this King Lear, and I think they're bringing that to Broadway and everything. So
I didn't even realize. Is he starring in it or directing it?
Starring in it.
Holy
yeah,
crap.
He did it in West End already.
That must be amazing.
I wasn't able to get to see it, but
yeah.
So I think any repeat director is a good thing. Like if someone liked you enough to want to go again, it's a good thing. But Cillian's, I mean, that's a long relationship he's had with Chris Nolan, and it's like it all paid off to finally get the lead in one of his pictures.
Let's talk about one of my favorite subjects. That's food. And that's why we're talking about Factor today. They deliver ready-to-eat meals that make eating better every day easy. So wherever tomorrow takes you, be ready with pre-prepared, chef-crafted, and yes, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. Plus, the variety, guys, is fantastic. Over 35 different options a week to choose from. Whether you're on a keto diet, calorie smart, vegan, veggie, whatever, they've got you covered, and there's even more to enjoy with over 55 nutrition-packed add-ons that help you make your weekly meal planning even more delicious. The 2-minute meals are invaluable. You can fuel it fast with Factor's restaurant-quality meals that are ready to eat and heat whenever you are. Plus, I am a snacker, guys, and they provide snacks, smoothies, and more. Discover a wide variety of easy options for the entire day, like breakfast, midday bites, and more. It is the perfect solution if you're looking for fast, upscale options done easily. So, head to factormeals.com/happysad50 and use that code happysad50 to get 50% off. That's code happysad50 at factormeals.com/happysad50 to get 50% off today. Let's actually promote your stuff as opposed to Cillian Murphy's for a second.
Yeah, that's enough, Cillian.
I finally caught up on The Tourist. So The Tourist kind of had this phenomenal release back home.
Yes.
And it's kind of been like the second wave here in the States now.
Yeah.
So it's now on Netflix by the time people watch this. It's on Netflix. The 2 seasons are on Netflix.
Yep.
I binged them both. They're great. It's a fun,
it's
really
a mad
cool
ride.
show. It's a mad show.
Yeah.
It's hard to compare it to something. I mean, this is high praise, but it kind of does feel like you're and tell me, it's almost like going for that Coen Brothers, Martin McDonagh vibe.
Yeah, I think they're fair comparisons. Yeah, I do. Jack and Harry Williams, who created it, have an offbeat sense of life, and that is all over everything they've either written or produced. They it's all a little bit off kilter in a really fun way. And it's been a lovely thing because Netflix have, they have done with lots of things, they've given it this whole other life that
the new
it didn't have.
You're
right. Or Manifest, or one of those shows that everyone's like, this is great.
Yeah.
And without speaking out of turn, it feels like it's found its right home in the States now. Because it was it was a big show in UK. It was
set record numbers.
Yeah, it was the most watched show, drama. So that's and then it was felt like, it's kind of unfair that it didn't get that hype in the States. So it's had a really strong start on Netflix. So it's cool. It's breathed new life into the show. And
to tease folks a little bit about what they're going to get here, this is a character, at least at the outset of the first season, that's suffering from amnesia. We don't know his past. Is that enjoyable for you? Like this, less work. I don't actually have to know any backstory.
It does sound like it is less work, and I kind of on many in terms of sort of time put in, it maybe does come out as less work, but actually it was just different work. It was such a weird thing of totally different process to what you're usually doing, is trying to, obviously, if it's not on the page, you're trying to create a backstory and insert all of this knowledge into the character. So then you can hopefully just shake it off and drop it and be in the moment when it comes to it. But this was all about only not clouding yourself of any pre-history or any ideal of self. Yeah, it's purely living in the moment. Every single fiber of your being is new to you. Every bit of information is totally new information. It was a really strange exercise trying to stay in that present moment all the time, which you're doing a variation of course, for every job, but this was really heightened. Staying there. It was really heightened. I loved it. I loved it. And then by the second series, he's found out a little bit more about himself, and some pieces have been put together, and so it's not quite so much that. But the first series is literally everything's huh? What? Yeah. What? Me? What? Do you know me? What? He sort of levels out a little bit in the second series.
So and again, the first season took you all the way over to Australia. You spent a lot of time there, which I'm sure was quite the adventure. And then this time around, you're closer to home.
Yes. Yeah. There was a whole thing of are we going again? Because of the response in the UK, we were going again. Yeah. Usually things has to be big in America to go, but it felt like it was so big in the UK, we were going to make more of it. And there was a bit of a conversation of going back out to Australia for 5 months and putting my kids back in school.
Change, with the kids. And
huge. It was a big undertaking to do when we did it in 2021. And weren't ready to do it again in 2023, if I'm really honest. Sure. So I was like, look, let's see if we can do it closer to home. And there was a world where story-wise it made sense to be in Ireland. So my character was Irish, and he was looking for answers, so he could go home and find the answers. So it was a win for everybody.
Get to meet dear old mom. What a character. So,
yeah, she's amazing.
So one of our devoted listeners of Happy Sad Confused, Linda, wanted to know what the most challenging aspect of filming season 1 versus season 2 was. What jumps out when you think about these distinct seasons?
I think the actual physical landscape of where we was a big test. In season 1, we had the heat, we had flies. Crazy flies that were being consumed in our mouths, up our noses, in our ears. It was a rough ride. Every member of crew is wearing those fly net things, tucked in, they're not a bother. And whoever the actors are just totally out there exposed, it was crazy. So I think that was a big challenge of season 1. Season 2 was, those first fucking couple of weeks, I do so much running. I'm honestly running and rolling up
this season in particular, I was struck as I'm watching. I'm like,
it was a lot
of running, a lot of fighting.
Yeah, a lot of that. Yeah,
car crashes.
Yeah, it was a lot. There was a lot of activity. A lot of
can I be in bed exertion. Next season?
No, it was because in the first series I did spend a lot of time in hospital bed. It was it was great, but no, they were making me work. I loved it. It was great, and sounds sort of paradoxical, but there was a heat wave in Ireland in those early weeks, so it really was very hot. Not hot for here in August or LA anytime, but it was warm, and I'm running around in the hills, and it was a challenge. It genuinely was a challenge, but I did love it.
And yeah, this one has so many twists and turns. I mean, at a certain point, you're like, wait a second, am I watching The Tourist or am I in a Saw movie? Like, where
there was.
What is happening?
Well, they're constantly playing with multi-genres, I'd say. That's why it's really hard to say what the show is, you know, and just when you're starting to feel comfortable that you have understood what it is or the tone of it, it becomes something totally different.
It's funny you say that because like I was watching with my wife, and to be honest, at first she was like, "I'm not sure I understand what this show is." I'm like, I think you're allowed to laugh. Like this is it's funny.
Sure,
and once she keyed into that, she's like, "Oh, like it changed kind of her perception of it." Yes. Then she's loved it ever since.
Yeah, and there does seem like a lot of impromptu laughs, a lot of like, what? Yeah, because they come hot in the heels of some really like dark stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, as soon as you like sort of tune into it, maybe on the tone, it'll be an easier pass, I think.
So we mentioned kind of like the lifestyle choices of an actor and how that influences decisions. I mean, the kids are at like, you know, very specific kind of ages right now. So I would imagine, like, how much do the kids dictate your choices right now based on the actual circumstances and also the material? Like, you haven't made a lot of movies, frankly, that necessarily feel like for the kids.
That's true.
Watch.
That's true. No, it's either like heavy sort of true war dramas or like films about sex or, you know, it's true. They could probably watch Belfast soon enough. Although there is a conflict element to that, of course, but it's also, you know, part of the history of where I'm from and where they're sort of half from or whatever. So it's important, you know, I want them to see that. It's
like, do they want you to do a certain kind of thing? Or are they like, Dad, just be in a Minions movie? Dad, work with Taylor Swift.
Definitely both of those. Yeah. I mean, look, I was in the second Trolls movie. Right. I did ask Donna Langley to be in that straight up. Just said to her, my kids are obsessed with the first one. I know you're making a second one, and you know that you have to put me in it. And I'll do anything in it. So I did a small thing, and that was a nice surprise for them. And look, it's been, you know, I've been lucky because The Tourist, I've also just had the longest time off of my life. I wanted to take time off after The Tourist, and then the strike happened literally as I made that decision. So it sort of enforced it, and it was kind of great. And now I am about to start something very soon. It's quite a long job, and that I'm not allowed to talk about, but it's exciting, and I've had all that time off, and it has been amazing. And The Tourist was in Dublin, so I'm flying home every weekend for holidays there, coming to Ireland. So it was all quite easy. Yeah. And before that, I did back-to-back movies in London. So it's been good recently. I feel like I've been around a lot. The next two things I have that are pretty definitely happening are Europe and UK. So, but you never know. You just have to take it case around, you know, and be like, right, everything. Every script I read, everything like, how can I make this work for my family? Yeah. And there'll be the odd thing where, it'll be unsettling, and, you know, if whoever calls and wants me in, you know, Guatemala, then we'll go on an adventure, and we're ready for that. But as the kids get older, it's harder to do that, right? And it's like the exams that they have at school are starting to have more stakes, and it's a bit like, so at the moment we're very much like trying to keep me in and around the UK and Europe, at least, you know. I have to say the last year and a half and what's ahead of me schedule wise is looking good for that. Yeah. But you don't have total.
Then Chris Nolan calls and says, I need you.
I know. Yeah. We're going to Fiji for, you know, a year
months.
And a half.
Exactly. Well, that's what Matt Damon said. Matt Damon was like, basically, I was like out of the game, and then he called and you're like, okay, I guess I'm not out of the game.
Chris Nolan will be like, Cillian needs a stand-in.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're not our first choice, but everyone else said no.
I mean, it's not bad to be the second choice after Cillian.
Well, yeah.
So we've talked about, you know, I remember one of our past conversations, we talked about the superhero thing, and you talked about your Superman audition way back when. I'm just curious, like, I don't know if I've ever gauged like your interests growing up in like genre. Like, did you have a thing? Like, are you, you know, as this aged man that sits before me today, still into anything like Star Wars or comics or car racing movies? I don't know. What was your thing besides enjoying sport?
Honestly, I was just so sporty that I was like, you know, a movie fan as much as any
You were
sort of young
punching
kids
kids like
as a
me.
movie-
You're like, oh, hey, nerd.
Yeah,
hey, Star Wars dork.
Yeah. Enjoying your comic? No. Hitting it up into your face and stuff. I wasn't like some, dickhead jock. Hopefully it wasn't. I don't know. Write in and tell if
Right,
I
they're
was.
gonna come. Yeah.
Leave your comment below. I feel like no. I feel like I was lots of things as a kid. I was very into rugby and all these other sports and stuff, but I was also did drama and was like had this sort of showy side to me. And as a result, I feel like I came out pretty level about lots of different things, but I just wasn't that. And, our oldest two kids watched Back to the Future, the first one, for the first time a week ago. I was really into those movies. I was really into Indiana Jones. Yeah. Like that's where I felt like we're always on this hunt for this elusive, like trying to get his hat and jacket wherever we were. I was like, let's see if I can find like the Indiana Jones hat. But now you can go to like Disneyland and you can buy like a replica that's kind of identical. Yeah. But back then you couldn't. I'd be like wearing straw hats or anything. There's these terrible pictures of me wearing sort of like PVC, like terrible shiny.
At what age are we
jackets?
talking?
Like 9 and 10. And I've got some old like branch that was like my whip. I've got to find some of these pictures.
Raised in a cave.
Yeah.
Where were you?
Where we were. These were lean times, camping in like France and stuff back in the day. But yeah, Indiana Jones was probably the thing I was most sort of obsessed with, and then probably anything with Michael J. Fox for Teen Wolf and everything for a long time. But I wasn't. The only comic I ever bought was Ghost Rider.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I used to buy those not like week in, week out, but I'd buy a lot of those. I had a good stack of Ghost Riders.
Are you trying to get a job right now? Because Ryan Gosling has told me he wants to play Ghost Rider, so you're up against Gosling. Can you take him out?
I don't know. He's sort of taller than I.
No, you're not.
Is it a physical thing?
You need to be the guy that says, "Yeah."
I don't. Again, it's an Irish thing for confidence to say I'm not taking Gosling out. He'd be amazing. When Nick Cage did it, didn't he?
He did.
With Ryan's wife, with Eva Mendes.
Right, that's right.
So that could be a whole full circle moment
over here.
Yeah, I know. That
Big
is
Spirit of Vengeance
quite
fan
nerdy
here.
to
The
know
sequel.
that,
Yeah. I will say, Edgar's Prayer. I feel like walked or ran so that I'm just Ken could run.
I like that take. I want to hear Greta's take on that. I want to hear. Did she watch Barb Star? Oh. She is a client at the same agency as me. I'm sure they got a screener to her. Right. I don't know. Yeah, listen. I mean, Edgar was a total sort of himbo. Like, I don't think I'd ever heard the term himbo until some of the stuff came out about my performance in Barb Star. So, yeah, I think there was some crossover there, maybe.
Happy, Sad, Confused is sponsored by BetterHelp. What's the first thing you do if you had an extra hour in your day? Would you go for a run? Would you sleep a little more? Would you visit a friend? Would you read a book? Most of us spend our lives thinking about having extra time, but the real question we should be asking ourselves is time for what? What would you use if you had unlimited time? Therapy can help decide what to use that time for, what's important in your life. I've benefited from therapy. Friends have too. If you're looking to start therapy, BetterHelp is there for you. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient and flexible and suited to your busy schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. Plus, they have flexibility. Think about that. You can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Therapy is invaluable in these stressful times. Give BetterHelp a try. Learn to make time for what makes you happy with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/HSC today to get 10% off your first month. That's right. BetterHelp, HELP.com/HSC. Give therapy a try. jumping around a bit, one of the projects we've never really talked about, and I might be chatting with her soon, which is why I'm thinking about it, is The Fall with Cillian Anderson.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Did that? I mean, that was a sea change for you. That was the one.
Big time.
Did you have, because again, we've talked, I think, about imposter syndrome, which always comes up with every actor. So on the set of that, was there something different working with Cillian? Like, what do you remember about working with her in particular? What struck you about her on that set?
Well, I got so little screen time with her in the first series. I did in the later series, but in the first one I didn't really, because it was very much like her trying to catch me, and we were kept very separate. But I had a real... I had a real sense with that job that like... this is like nothing I've done before, or even like gone up for, auditioned for, got close to before. And if people believe me in this, it could really change things for me, because it was such a dark world and such a bad, heinous, broken person that I was playing. And I'd only, because maybe of modeling and whatever and stigma by casting director, I had only was going up for like sort of fluffier, boyfriendy type roles, to be honest with you then. So suddenly someone had taken this big risk to put me front and center in a totally different capacity to how I'd been seen before. And I will forever be grateful for that. And Cillian was a big part of that, because Alan Cubitt, who created the show, he very much wanted me. One of the producers did, two of the producers definitely didn't. Nina Gold, who cast it, I think did. And so it was very like balanced of like, do we want this guy or not? It's a bit of a risk. He's probably a little bit too young and nobody really knows him. And do we know he can act? And actually Cillian really, I know this now from lots of different stories. You know, this is, Jesus, 12 years ago, sorry. She really fought my corner.
Which is huge. I mean, because she was of a stature, she had a
big
pedigree, and you had a different. You know, you didn't have that resume.
No,
at the
exactly,
time.
and it needed her voice, and she was a producer on it and everything. It needed her to say, "No, there's something in this guy." So I'm forever thankful to her. And how cool is her career? I mean, she just keeps doing like bigger and better stuff, Cillian.
She could be like defined by like one thing and then just like coast forever, and it just keeps.
No, and she still just looks incredible. She just looks better and better, and she just has such poise and grace, and it really does really interesting stuff. And I love her. I keep in good contact with Cillian. I think she's brilliant.
So we've talked once or twice about 50 Shades.
Yeah.
Do the films, do they bleed into one for you now? Like, can you differentiate one from the other?
They sort of do. Yeah, I mean, I guess they do. 2 and 3 would slip into the same kind of thing, because we shot and a different director and everything, and you know.
If you had to summarize the films and take out all the sex in 30 seconds, what's the story of the 50 Shades trilogy?
I don't remember.
Did you ever see them? Did you watch them?
I watched I saw them all. Okay, I had to for like press and stuff, you know, because obviously they can always change stuff in the edit, and I'm talking about stuff that's no longer in the movie anymore and stuff. So I watched them all like I think I watched them all like by myself in a theater with like a security guard, which is a really incredibly awkward scenario to find yourself in when you're
watch yourself having
simulating
sex.
so much sex.
Yeah. Just turn to him and be like, "What do you think? How am I doing?"
Believable, passable. What do you think? Good technique. Outside of that, you know, boy meets girl. Boy meets girl, teaches her some stuff.
Yep.
You know, end up happy.
Yeah, that's how you describe it to the kids. What
it's
Daddy made.
Like when Harry Met Sally kind of vibes over 3 movies.
Yeah, totally. How many times have you seen Madam Web, Dakota's latest?
I haven't seen it yet. I
caught up with her recently. She's still the deadpan delight that just warms my soul.
Yeah, no, she's got a great way of like being in interviews and making everything really funky by like not saying anything or
feed off of it. It's the best.
We love her for it. She's brilliant. I haven't seen her in a while because I haven't
when you
been
guys
in
ran into each other way back when.
I've maybe seen her once since Telluride.
Yeah,
but just the strike of it all, and I haven't made it out to LA since, and haven't really been here. And but no, I want to see the film.
So You can't tell me what you're doing next, but you're excited about it.
Very excited about it.
TV, film? Okay. Cagey. That means it's really good.
No, listen, I've got a couple of fun things coming up.
Yeah.
That, you know, I think for the first time in a long time, I have quite good advanced knowledge of what I'm doing. Like, I think I know what I'm doing I definitely know what I'm doing for the rest of this year.
Yeah.
And I pretty certain know what I'm doing for most of next year, which is nice.
All right, so let's end with the happy, sad, confused, profoundly random questions.
Yes.
Jamie, you ready? Dogs or cats?
Oh, dogs. I really don't like cats. I'm super allergic to cats.
Yeah.
I'm allergic to most dogs too, but I have a dog and I'm obsessed with him and I love dogs.
What kind of dog do you have? Tell me about your dog.
I have a black lab. Yeah. He is called Leonard. He was called Seymour for 24 hours and then Leonard Cohen died in those 24 hours. And I woke up to the news. I'm a huge Leonard Cohen fan. And I was like, Leonard's a great name for a dog. So, he's 7. He's the same age as he's 7. He'll be 8 in September, but our middle one just turned 8. Our middle daughter just turned 8. They are they're like best friends. Yeah, I can't confuse them all. They all sleep in the same bed.
Eat the same food.
Yeah, just throw like dry food at them. But she, Elva, our middle one, is upset. They're like best friends and they're inseparable, and she loves that they're the same age. Because she just turned 8, they have a few months now where they're not the same age, which doesn't make her happy.
Right.
But he's unbelievable. I love dogs. Yeah, cats are just, I'm so allergic to cats. It's on clouds my judgment.
It's a medical thing. I get it.
It is.
I became a dog dad in the recent years, and I've become obsessed. So I totally get it.
Yeah.
What do you collect?
I collect. Oh God, this is so gimpy. Ball markers. Like I'm a big golfer.
Oh sure.
Those little ball markers. Every time I play a new golf club, I buy a ball marker. Wow, so I have a big
pretty
bag
cool
of them.
dude.
Yeah, this guy. Just when you thought this guy couldn't get more cool.
Good thing he's off the market, ladies.
Sorry.
What's the weirdest place you've ever been recognized?
Yesterday, I went to a like a Turkish bathhouse on the Lower East Side.
Sure.
That I'm gonna say wasn't fancy.
Sure.
But actually was great. And you get treated like a piece of meat, and someone threw me on a slab and threw like freezing water in my face, and then rubbed me down with like salt and like whacked me with branches from some kind of unrecognizable tree. And my wife and I were both there, just getting thrown around this place. And then I sort of came out, and I was a bit bewildered, like sat there, and the guy said like, "I'm a big fan of your work." I was like, I feel like I've just been used and abused, but I'll take the compliment.
Did he specify?
No, maybe he thought I was someone else. I loved you in Oppenheimer.
Exactly.
I don't know.
What's not that there's anything annoying about you, but what's the most annoying thing if I asked your partner, your kids, what's the most annoying thing about Jamie Dornan?
I'm not great at switching off. I'm often quite hyper. I'm not good at, my wife is an only child and is really good with like silence and peace. Yeah. And I'm really bad at giving her that. And actually, and now and again, like we went for a big walk in Central Park yesterday, and I was, sometimes I'm aware, particularly if we wanted to go to this place for breakfast, so we hadn't eaten anything yet, hadn't had a coffee, and I felt like I could tell that she just wanted that sort of quiet walk through Central Park, just taking it all in. We'll get somewhere where we'll be caffeinated soon, and it's all going to be fine. And I could tell I had to work really hard.
It's just like quieting it. Like you want to talk, I
want to sing, and I want to talk about. I become such an old man. Like I want to be like talk about every single building. I'm like, that's interesting. You think that was maybe a church before? I don't know. Like the cornicing of that would kind of maybe tell you that. Like I'm like, right. Yeah, we brought that up recently, and I'm really bad about that in the car. Right. Of like wanting to comment on everything, and Millie just wants to listen to music or just be quiet. When the kids are there, they're creating their own havoc. But her and
you like to fill the
Felicity Blunt, who's Emily's sister, who's married to Stanley Tucci, like very, very, very good friends of ours. She says Stanley has the same thing, and she actually wants us, Stanley and I, to go on a road trip together so that we can just talk to each other. Because we're both like in the car going, "Ooh, that's interesting. I wonder. Ooh, I don't like." Where do you think that is? What can we shut up? Just like pass a building or a car or something that you don't need to comment on.
Yeah. Inside voice.
So I have to really restrain myself from just talking and singing and just
Singing on the street, just walking and singing.
Oh well, I had a good one yesterday. We were on the subway yesterday, and when the subway goes past, it's so loud that you can really belt out. It's like sprinting. Like often, I play a bit of five-a-side soccer every Tuesday nights back in London, and nowadays people go for a run, for a jog, whatever. You don't sprint that much anymore, but I still get to a little bit, and it always feels like, oh yeah, I remember this, you know. And I feel like you don't get to fully, unless you are a Broadway musical star, singer, or whatever, you don't get to sing really loudly anymore that much. So I take the opportunity as the subway passes. And yesterday I was like, we went to see Merrily We Roll Along the other night. Yeah. The subway went past, it was so loud, and I was like, Merrily We Go. I was like, really went for it. And I was like, I said to my wife, I was like, the train went past, and I was like, isn't that great? Like, you can just do that, like, and no one hears you. And she was like, I can hear you.
Yeah. It's like everyone here is staring at you.
No, it was a quiet platform. We sort of had it to ourselves. But,
oh my God. Yeah. All right. Wrapping up, I promise. Worst note a director has ever given you? Anything jump out?
It's when you have many times. I actually don't hate it, but sometimes it feels a bit lazy. But maybe sometimes it's good. It's just to do it faster. Yeah. Like sometimes particularly in TV. Yeah. The guys, it's literally a time thing. It's like we are running. We've got to do a faster take. Yeah. I worked with a director once who would remain nameless, but my co-star had worked with him before, and she was like the only note he gives is to go faster. And I was like, that couldn't be true. And anyway, I did like a good 7 weeks with him or something, and all he ever said was to go faster. Yeah, I was like, oh wow, it really does. Yeah, that is his only note.
In the spirit of happy, sad, confused, an actor that makes you happy.
Cillian Murphy,
of course. Good time, Cillian. Movie that makes you sad.
Philadelphia. It's a heartbreaker for me every time. I must have seen that movie 70 times.
Great one. Food that makes you confused.
Confused.
I don't get it. You see it on the menu, you're like, well, why do people eat this? Why?
Flatbread.
Flatbread.
As a meal, I feel like if it's out on the table and like for snacks and stuff, sure, like as a snack. But when people have it like as a main course and they just have flatbread and then it's hidden underneath a load of sort of gunk on top, I find that quite strange.
Yeah, I find it annoying when it's like flatbread topped with cheese and tomato. You're like, oh, that's called pizza.
Exactly.
Let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
Buddy, it's always good to see you. It's even better to see you in the flesh. Congratulations on The Tourist. I'm happy that the U.S. audiences are now getting a chance to enjoy this wild ride. Check it out. 2 seasons. They're very bingeable in the best possible way. Enjoy the work of Mr. Jamie Dornan. Thanks for coming, man.
Cheers, Josh. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It was good fun.
And so ends another edition of Happy, Sad, Confused. Remember to review, rate, and subscribe to this show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm a big podcast person. I'm Daisy Ridley, and I definitely wasn't pressured to do this by Josh.